Wesley Vaughn hadn't expected to start his morning holding a bleeding, hissing ball of fur wrapped in his hoodie while his 6-year-old daughter sobbed behind him. "Daddy, please don't let him die," Daisy begged, clutching the hem of his jeans with her tiny fists, her brown eyes wide and wet. "I won't, baby," Wesley said, crouched in the middle of their driveway with the injured cat trembling in his arms. "Go grab my toolbox. Second drawer, the old towel." She sprinted off in her pink pajamas and fuzzy socks, disappearing into their small, beat-up rental house on the outskirts of town. The cat, a long-haired gray with a torn ear and blood on its paw, shivered violently, but its green eyes stayed locked on Wesley like it knew he was its only chance. He didn't know much about cats, but he knew pain, and this cat was in it. By the time Daisy returned, Wesley had already laid the animal on a flattened cardboard box and was gently cleaning the wound with bottled water. "You're doing great. See, he's already calming down." "Is he going to be okay?" "I think so," Wesley said, even though he wasn't sure. He'd been a mechanic once, good with his hands, but after his wife died 3 years ago, he'd lost more than just his job. Now he worked part-time at a local gas station and picked up odd jobs when he could. Money was tight, real tight. "Where did he come from?" Daisy asked, stroking the cat's fur as it let out a weak purr. "No idea," Wesley muttered, "but he's got a collar. Let's see if there's a name." He turned the tiny tag over. "Whiskers," he read aloud, then blinked at the address. "Wait. That's the big house on Ravenhill." Daisy's eyes widened. "The castle-looking one with the gates." "Yeah," Wesley said, hesitating. "That house is worth more than the whole block. Are we going to take him back?" Wesley looked down at Whiskers, who was now curled beside Daisy like she was his chosen human. "Not yet. He's not ready. Let's get him patched up first." 2 days later, Wesley stood outside the massive iron gates of Ravenhill Estate, Whiskers tucked calmly in a carrier at his feet. He rang the bell, feeling like a trespasser. The door opened, and a woman stepped out. She was barefoot, wearing a white t-shirt knotted at the waist and jeans that probably cost more than his entire wardrobe. Her dark curls framed her face, and her eyes sharp, gray-blue, studied him with guarded curiosity. "Yes," she said. "I found your cat," Wesley said, lifting the carrier. "He was hurt. My daughter and we took care of him." Her expression softened instantly. "Whiskers?" "Yeah, he's doing okay now, still limping a bit. He should probably be checked by a vet, though." Her hand flew to her chest. "Oh my God, thank you. I was so worried." Wesley opened the carrier and Whiskers stepped out without hesitation, walking straight to her and rubbing against her leg. She crouched down and scooped him into her arms. "You've got blood on your shirt," she said, looking up at him. "I do," she smiled a little. "You really patched him up yourself?" "Had to. Vet visits aren't cheap," he said before he could stop himself. Her smile faltered for a second, but she nodded. "You said you have a daughter, Daisy. She's 6. She's the reason Whiskers is still alive." "Wouldn't let me leave him. I'd like to meet her." The woman extended her hand. "I'm Wren Ashford." Wesley shook her hand. "Wesley Vaughn." There was a long pause between them, the kind that felt like something was shifting in the air. "You want to come in for coffee?" she asked suddenly. "As a thank you." "I don't know if Wesley," she cut in gently. "You saved my cat. Let me thank you properly." The inside of the house looked like a high-end magazine exploded. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble floors, tasteful art, and a grand piano that didn't look like it had ever been touched. Still, it didn't feel cold. It felt like her. Wren handed him a mug. "So what do you do?" "Mechanic by trade." "Right now, gas station clerk, handyman, whatever pays the bills." "I used to have a shop, but..." He took a sip. "Life happened. You didn't bring Daisy. She's at school. I didn't want to bother you with "You're not bothering me," Wren said, setting her mug down. "You helped someone I love." Wesley blinked. "You love your cat," she laughed, a real one this time. "He was my only friend when I moved here, so yeah, I do." "Moved from where?" "New York." He raised his eyebrows. "Big change," she shrugged. "I needed a fresh start." "Same," Wesley said quietly. Their eyes met again, and something passed between them, an unspoken understanding, a shared feeling of having survived something heavy. Wren showed up at Wesley's place the next day. He was in the garage fixing an old lawn mower when Daisy came running out. "Daddy." "She's here." Wren stepped out of a sleek silver SUV, holding a cat carrier and a paper bag. Whiskers missed you, she said, and I brought donuts. Wesley wiped his hands on a rag, trying not to stare. She looked like she belonged in a perfume commercial, and yet here she was, standing on the gravel driveway like it was normal. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, Wren replied, handing the bag to Daisy. Can I hang out for a bit? He nodded, still stunned. Sure. They sat on the porch steps while Daisy played with Whiskers in the grass. You ever think about opening your shop again? Wren asked. Every day, Wesley admitted. But dreams don't pay rent. She looked at him for a moment. What if they did? He frowned. What do you mean? I mean. If you had a shot, would you take it? Of course. But that's not how the world works. Wren was quiet after that, but her gaze lingered on him, and when she left that afternoon, she did so with a look he couldn't quite define. 2 weeks passed. Wren visited almost every day. Sometimes she brought Whiskers, sometimes pastries from a bakery she just discovered. Sometimes nothing but herself and a smile that made Wesley's heart beat faster than it had in years. He didn't know what was happening between them. He just knew he felt lighter when she was around. One night after Daisy had gone to bed, they sat on his porch under the stars, sharing a bottle of soda. You know, Wren said, her voice low, I didn't come to Ravenhill for a fresh start. Wesley turned to her. No, I came to hide. He didn't push, he just waited. I'm not just a girl with a fancy house, she continued. I'm the CEO of Ashford Global. My grandfather built it, and now it's mine. Billionaire, boardrooms, all of it. Wesley stared at her. You're joking. I'm not. He let out a slow breath. So you're a billionaire. And you've been hanging out with me. She looked at him, eyes fierce. I've been falling for you. His heart stopped. I don't care about money, Wesley. I care about how you held my cat like he was part of your family, how you raise your daughter with so much love it hurts to watch. I care about you. He didn't speak for a second. Then he said, I've been falling for you too. She reached for his hand. Then don't stop. He didn't. Wesley's hands were covered in grease when the knock came. He wiped them quickly on a rag and opened the garage door, surprised to find Wren standing in the afternoon light, holding a clipboard and a leather-bound folder. I need your opinion on something, she said without waiting for an invitation. Her tone was breezy, but there was a tightness around her eyes he hadn't seen before. I thought billionaires didn't ask for opinions, he teased, setting the rag aside. Wren raised an eyebrow. Only when it comes to stock portfolios. This is different. She walked past the half-assembled riding mower and spread the folder open on the hood of his old truck. Wesley stepped beside her, scanning the blueprints and property documents she laid out. Ashford Motors, he read aloud. It's a division that's been dormant for years. My grandfather started it back in the 80s, but it never took off. I'm thinking about reviving it. Wesley leaned in. Looks like it's focused on custom restorations. Exactly. High-end builds, collectibles, vintage cars with modern guts. But I don't want it to be another faceless brand. He looked at her. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to run it. His mouth opened, then closed again. You're serious. I don't offer jobs as a joke. I'm not qualified to run a company. You're qualified to run a garage. To lead a team, to fix things most people would give up on. That's what this is. He shook his head. You barely know me. Wren rolled up the documents and tucked them under her arm. I know enough, but I'll give you time to think about it. She turned to leave, but Wesley stopped her. Wait, she looked back. If I say yes, what does that mean for us? Her expression softened. That depends on what you want us to be. I want to keep seeing you, but not because you're offering me a lifeline. She stepped closer. Then don't take it as a lifeline. Take it as a beginning. That night, Wesley sat at the kitchen table long after Daisy had fallen asleep. The folder Wren had left behind sat in front of him, pages spread out like a map to a life he hadn't dared imagine. He ran his fingers over the schematic of the proposed garage layout. It had his name penciled into the corner. Director of Operations, Vaughn Automotive. His chest tightened. He hadn't had a title since before Daisy was born. Hadn't had hope that felt like this in longer than he cared to admit. The next morning, he called his brother to watch Daisy and drove to the address Wren had listed as the potential site. It was a wide, open warehouse on the edge of town, all steel bones and dusty promise. The kind of place you could build something real inside. Wren was already there, leaning against a black SUV, sunglasses pushed up into her curls. "You came," she said, pushing off the car. "I needed to see it with my own eyes." She unlocked the door and led him inside. Sunlight filtered through high windows, catching the floating dust in golden streaks. The space echoed with their footsteps. It smelled like old oil and dry concrete. "It's rough," she said. "But I thought you might like that." He walked through the space, imagining lifts along one wall, a line of tool benches, maybe even a paint booth in the back. "What's the catch?" "There isn't one," she said. "I'll fund it, you'll run it. We split profit after expenses. You'll have full creative control." He turned toward her. "Why are you doing this for me?" "Because I believe in what you can build, and because I can." He studied her for a long moment. "I'll do it, but on one condition." "Name it, you come to the opening." "As my date." Her lips parted slightly before a slow breath escaped. "I think I can manage that." The next few weeks blurred into motion. Wren assembled a team of architects and contractors, while Wesley recruited mechanics he knew from his old life, guys who had talent but couldn't catch a break. They gutted the warehouse, laid new flooring, installed lifts and lighting. Every detail passed through Wesley's hands. Wren didn't hover, but she came by often, sometimes with building permits, sometimes with cold lemonade, sometimes with nothing but a quiet smile that made Wesley's day better without her saying a word. Late one evening, after the crew had gone home, Wesley found her standing alone in the office space, staring out the window. "You ever miss New York?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "I miss who I was before I inherited everything," she said without turning. "Back when I was just a girl with a camera and a dream to photograph the world." He stepped beside her. "Why didn't you?" "My mother got sick. Then the company fell into my lap. I traded one dream for another." "You regret it?" "Not anymore." She looked at him then, and the air between them thickened. Wesley reached up to brush a strand of hair from her cheek. "You never told me why you really came to town." Wren hesitated. "There was a man. He thought he was owed something. When I refused to give it, he made it ugly. I needed distance, space to breathe." Wesley's jaw tightened. "He hurt you?" "No, but he wanted to. And I realized how dangerous it is to be powerful around the wrong people. You're safe here." "I know," she whispered. They stood in silence, the hum of the city far in the distance. Wren broke it. "What will you call the shop?" Wesley glanced around. "I was thinking Vaughn Legacy," she smiled. "It suits you." The grand opening came faster than anyone expected. The warehouse transformed into a gleaming, modern garage with exposed beams, polished floors, and a showroom that made Wesley's heart beat with pride. On the night before the ribbon cutting, Wesley stood in front of the mirror adjusting his only tie when Daisy bounced into the room. "Is Miss Wren coming?" she asked, already in her new dress. "She is. Do you like her?" He turned from the mirror and kneeled. "I do." She tilted her head. "Do you love her?" Wesley paused. "I think I'm getting there." Daisy hugged him tight. "I hope she stays forever." At the opening, the town turned out in full force. Reporters, old friends, even city officials wandered through the new garage with wide eyes. Cameras flashed, champagne flowed. And then Wren arrived. She wore a navy jumpsuit and gold heels, her hair pinned back in a simple twist. She moved through the crowd like she didn't belong to it, only passing through. But when their eyes met, Wesley saw the truth. She belonged exactly where she was. She took his hand. "Congratulations. I couldn't have done it without you." "You did it because of you," she said. "I just lit the match." He leaned in. "I'm falling in love with you." Wren's breath caught. "Then don't stop." "I won't." "Not ever." The phone call came just after sunrise, rousing Wesley from a shallow sleep on the living room couch. He rubbed his eyes and glanced at Daisy, still curled under a blanket on the floor with whiskers tucked against her side. The soft purr of the cat and the steady rise and fall of his daughter's breathing grounded him until he saw the name glowing on his screen. "Wren," he answered immediately. "Hey, everything okay?" "I need you to come with me," she said. Her voice wasn't panicked, but it wasn't steady either. "There's something I want you to see." Wesley hesitated. "Is something wrong?" "No, but it's important." He looked down at Daisy. "Give me 10 minutes. Wren was waiting outside in a dark sedan, dressed in a crisp charcoal coat and boots, her hair gathered at the nape of her neck. She didn't speak as he climbed into the passenger seat. Her fingers tightened slightly around the steering wheel, knuckles pale in the early morning light. Wesley cleared his throat. "You gonna tell me where we're going?" She nodded once, eyes straight ahead. "You said once that you wanted to keep seeing me, but not because I was giving you a lifeline. I meant it. So did I." She glanced at him. "But if we're going to keep moving forward, you need to see the whole picture, even the parts I don't like." The rest of the drive passed in silence. They pulled up in front of a sleek, glass-paneled building nestled in the hills outside the city. It was surrounded by a high fence and a private security gate. Wesley stepped out slowly, unsure of what he was walking into. Wren led him through a set of double doors and into a minimalist lobby. A receptionist greeted her with a quick nod, and they continued down a long hallway lined with framed photos, black and white images of grim-faced boardrooms, newspaper articles, ribbon cuttings, and corporate award galas. All of them with the same man at the center, tall, silver-haired, with eyes that bore down like a hawk. "My grandfather," Wren said quietly, noting his gaze. "Charles Ashford." Wesley said nothing, but the tension in his shoulders rose. She brought him into a private office at the end of the corridor. It was colder than the lobby, the decor all sharp edges and chrome. She walked to a safe recessed in the wall, entered a code, and retrieved a small stack of documents before handing them to him. He flipped through them slowly. Contracts, asset holdings, company transfer agreements, and at the top of it all a single file labeled Ashford Global Private Claims Confidential. Wesley scanned the contents, brow furrowing deeper with each line. "This is a lawsuit," one of many, Wren said, leaning against the edge of the desk. "Filed against my grandfather before he died. He buried most of them with settlements, NDA, hush money. He was ruthless, built an empire by stepping on anyone who couldn't fight back." Wesley looked up. "And you inherited all of it, every dollar, every secret." He set the folder down. "Why show me this? Because I don't want to be like him. I've spent the last year dismantling what he built, selling off unethical divisions, paying out quiet victims, redirecting investments into sustainable ventures. But there are still people who think I'm just his successor, that I'll eventually turn into him." She paused, her voice quieter. "If we keep going, you'll be standing beside someone with a target on her back. A woman a lot of people would love to see fail. I needed you to know what that means." Wesley stepped closer, resting his hands on the edge of the desk beside her. "I'm not afraid of your past. I've got mine too. But I care about who you are now and what you're trying to do." Her shoulders dropped slightly, some of the weight lifting from them. "You're not going to walk away, Wren. I've been through worse than a few boardroom ghosts." "You think I'd flinch now?" She laughed softly, the sound tinged with relief. "I wasn't sure." "Well, now you are." They returned to the garage later that afternoon. The team was already hard at work prepping a vintage Camaro for its first restoration. Wesley adjusted quickly, moving through the space with the ease of someone who belonged there. But Wren lingered near the edge, hands clasped behind her back, watching him interact with the crew. When he finally circled back to her, she was studying the office door with a thoughtful expression. "You're not just fixing cars here," she said. "No. You're giving people a second chance, same thing I'm trying to do in my world, just with less grease." He smiled. "Grease is underrated." She tilted her head. "Wesley, if things between us get serious, they'll come after you, the press. The public, people who want to discredit me. I'm not a secret, Wren. I'm not ashamed of my life, and I'm not going to hide in your shadow." She looked at him then, really looked like she was seeing him with new eyes. "I don't want you behind me. I want you beside me." Later that night, Wesley picked Daisy up from his brother's house and brought her home. She bounded into the kitchen, chattering about her day with the kind of energy only a child could sustain after sundown. As he set the dinner table, his phone buzzed with a message from Wren. He didn't answer it right away. Instead, he sat with Daisy, listening to her describe a class project involving papier-mâché animals and glitter glue. She reached for her juice box and paused mid-sip. "Daddy?" "Yeah, Bug. Do you think people can be both good and bad?" Wesley blinked. "Why do you ask?" Miss Wren said her family made mistakes, but she's trying to fix them. "I think that makes her good, right?" He leaned back in his chair, caught off guard by the simplicity of her question. "I think trying to fix mistakes is what makes someone strong. And yeah, good too." Daisy nodded solemnly, then returned to her dinner like she hadn't just dropped a truth bomb. Wesley glanced at his phone again, then stood and walked to the back porch. The night air was cool, the stars just starting to pierce the dark sky. He dialed Wren's number. When she answered, he didn't wait. "I'm all in. Whatever storms come, we'll face them together." Her breath caught on the other end. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." There was a long pause, then her voice soft and certain. "Then let's build something that lasts." Rain pattered softly on the rooftop of the finished garage as Wesley stepped into the office with 2 coffees in hand. He'd stopped at the corner cafe Wren liked, the one with the flaky croissants and quiet music, just because he'd remembered how she took it black with a splash of oat milk. She stood by the back window, arms folded, phone pressed to her ear, her posture tense but composed. When she noticed him, she nodded once and turned away slightly, finishing the call in low, clipped tones. He set the coffees on the desk without interrupting. When she finally hung up, she exhaled slowly. "That didn't sound like a morning check-in," Wesley said carefully. "It was my legal team," she replied, walking toward him. "The man I told you about, the one who tried to leverage me into a deal last year, he's back." Wesley's jaw tightened. What does he want now? Control, influence. He's been buying up stock through shell companies, trying to force a vote to reinsert himself into the board. Her voice didn't waver, but her fingers curled slightly at her sides. "He's betting on old loyalties." "Can he do it?" "Not if I beat him to it." She picked up the coffee and took a sip, then looked at him over the rim. "Which is why I'm flying to Zurich tonight. There's a board member who's been on the fence. I need to convince him face to face." Wesley nodded slowly. "How long will you be gone?" 3 days, maybe 4. "Daisy's got a school play Friday," he said. "She'll want you there." Wren's expression flickered. "I didn't forget. You could have told me sooner." "I didn't want to make it real yet." He stepped closer. "You're not alone in this anymore." "You know that, right?" "I do, which is why I'm telling you now." He reached out, brushing her wrist lightly. "And when you come back, I make it permanent," she said. "No more hiding, no more compartments. I want a life where I don't have to choose between being CEO and being yours." That night, after Daisy had fallen asleep, Wesley stood by her bedroom door, watching the gentle rise and fall of her chest. Whiskers was curled up by her feet, tail flicking in sleep. The quiet of the house felt heavier without Wren's laugh echoing from the kitchen or her shoes by the door. He walked outside and sat on the porch steps, rain misting against his skin. The scent of wet pavement and honeysuckle filled the air. He pulled out his phone and opened the photo Wren had sent before boarding, her hand wrapped around a boarding pass, the corner of her coat just visible. The next morning, Wesley woke to a knock on the door. He opened it to find a courier holding a slim envelope. "Delivery for Mr. Vaughn," the man said before walking off. Wesley opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note in Wren's precise script. "Don't let them turn you into someone safe. I fell in love with the man who fought to build something better. I'll be back soon." Attached was a key, long, ornate, with a small engraved tag that read, "Office 2B." Wesley stared at it, heart pounding. By Friday afternoon, the garage buzzed with energy. Clients drifted in and out, peering at the cars in progress. Daisy's play was that evening, and he'd promised to lock up early. He was tightening a panel on a restored Thunderbird when his phone rang. He nearly dropped the wrench when he saw the caller ID. "Wren, I'm at the airport," she said. "I made the deal. He's out, for good." His heart surged. "You did it?" "I did it." "We did it. You'll make it to the play. I'm already on the road." He hung up and exhaled. The air felt lighter than it had in days. That night, Daisy stood on stage in a glitter-covered cardboard tree costume, beaming as the audience applauded. Wesley stood in the back, arms folded, smiling so hard his face hurt. Wren slipped in beside him halfway through the final scene, her coat damp from the rain, her eyes locked on Daisy. "She's brilliant," she whispered. "She's yours too now," he whispered back. Afterward, Daisy ran into Wren's arms backstage, squeezing her tightly. "You came." "Of course I did," Wren said, spinning her in a circle. "I wouldn't miss it." They returned home to find a large black car parked at the curb. Wesley frowned. "You expecting someone?" "No," Wren said, instantly alert. The door opened and a man stepped out. Tall, trim, older, in a steel gray suit tailored to perfection. His expression was calm, but his eyes were calculating. "Miss Ashford," he said smoothly. "You've made quite the mess." Wren stepped forward, shielding Daisy slightly. "You're trespassing, Mr. Corbin." "I'm here as a courtesy," he said. "You've made enemies with deep pockets. I suggest you tread carefully." Wesley moved beside her. "She's not alone anymore." "You want a fight, you've got one." The man's gaze flicked to him, then back to Wren. "You're making a mistake." "No," she said, voice steady. "I'm correcting one." He left without another word. Later, in the quiet of the living room, Wren sat beside Wesley on the couch, her head resting against his shoulder. "You sure you're ready for this?" he asked. "Every time I think I've hit the limit of what I can handle," she said. "You show me I'm capable of more." He kissed the top of her head. "We're building something real now. No more walls." She looked up at him. "So let's start acting like it," he blinked. "What do you mean?" She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. His breath caught. "Wren," she opened it to reveal a ring, not flashy, not enormous. Just elegant and meaningful, something chosen with intention. "I want Daisy to know what it looks like when two people choose each other, not because they have to, because they want to." Wesley reached for her hand. "You beat me to it." "Doesn't matter who asks first," she said. "Just that the answer's yes." He took the ring, slid it onto her finger, and whispered, "Yes. 1,000 times yes." That weekend, under the strings of lights they'd hung across the garage rafters, surrounded by the people who'd helped them build from the ground up, Wesley and Wren exchanged vows. Daisy held the rings, wearing a flower crown and grinning so wide her cheeks ached. Wren wore no veil, no pretense, just a dress she picked herself and love in her eyes. Wesley's voice cracked as he promised her forever, and when they kissed, the entire room erupted. Whiskers meowed from his perch on the office desk, and someone popped a bottle of champagne. Wren leaned in, her lips brushing Wesley's ear as the music swelled. "Now we build everything else." Together they stepped into their new life, no secrets, no shadows, just love, earned, real. And finally, free. The garage hummed with quiet activity that morning, the kind that came after the storm but before the next big wave. Wesley adjusted the torque on a vintage Mustang's axle, but his thoughts were drifting, though not from worry. For the first time in years, he wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. He was thinking about spring break. Wren had mentioned Greece, or maybe Tuscany, somewhere with open skies and no boardrooms. He hadn't given her an answer yet, mostly because he couldn't picture leaving the garage for more than a few days without missing it. But the idea of watching Daisy run barefoot down a sun-washed beach, while Wren tried to convince him to eat something he couldn't pronounce, that was a future he could get used to. He was tightening the last bolt when he heard her heels on the concrete. Not the usual quiet, composed click that meant she was in work mode. These were faster, lighter. She was excited. "You're going to want to see this," Wren said, holding a thick envelope in one hand and a box in the other. Wesley wiped his hands and followed her into the office. She dropped the envelope on the desk and opened the box, revealing a model car meticulously painted in the exact colors of the first restoration. They'd ever completed together, a cherry red Camaro with ivory racing stripes. "What's this?" "A thank you gift," she said. "From the Ashford Innovation Council. They've approved the proposal I submitted last month. Vaughn Legacy is officially the pilot site for the veteran apprenticeship program." Wesley blinked. "You went behind my back. I prefer the term strategically ahead of your schedule," he laughed, shaking his head. "You're unbelievable." "I'm proud of what we built," she said, growing serious, "but I want it to be more than just ours. I want it to give other people what you gave me: clarity, purpose, second chances." He reached across the desk and took her hand. "You already gave me all of that." She looked down at his fingers wrapped around hers. "This isn't just about business anymore. It hasn't been for a long time, I know. And I want to build something permanent, not just concrete and steel, something that lasts through the quiet years and the loud ones." "You already have me," he said. "But if you're asking what I think you're asking, then yes." 100 times, her lips curved. "I wasn't asking, I was telling you, I've already started looking at land," he blinked. Land for the house. Their wedding had been beautiful, intimate, impulsive, and built on the bones of something real. But they'd stayed in Wesley's rental because it was familiar and Daisy had school. Now, Wren wanted them to have something that was theirs from the ground up. I found a plot just outside town, she continued. 5 acres, oak trees. Room for a garden, a porch swing, even a tire swing if Daisy insists. She will, Wesley said, already picturing it. Wren reached into her coat and pulled out a folded brochure. I want to design it with you. Every window, every wall. I don't want a mansion. I want a home. He looked at the sketches: a wraparound porch, a south-facing kitchen, a garage big enough for 2 projects, and a stubborn cat. I'll build it with my own hands if I have to, he said. You won't, she replied. But I'd love to watch you try. That evening, Daisy sat cross-legged on the living room floor surrounded by colored pencils and construction paper. She was making invitations hand-drawn because, as she explained, a housewarming needs real ceremony, not just boring emails. She showed Wren one of the cards, a crooked heart drawn around 3 stick figures holding hands. I even made one for Whiskers, Daisy said. I'm sure he'll display it proudly, Wren replied. Later, while Daisy was brushing her teeth, Wesley leaned against the bathroom doorway and watched Wren braid her hair. She trusts you, he said. She's easy to love. She's not the only one, Wren turned, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. Neither are you. The next few weeks passed in a blur of meetings, blueprints, and site visits. Wren scaled back her travel. Wesley trained new hires. Daisy started leaving sticky notes around the house with potential names for her future horse, even though no one had agreed to buy one. The day they broke ground on the house, the sun was high and the wind was warm. Daisy wore muddy boots and a hard hat 3 sizes too big. Wesley took the first shovel of dirt, then handed it to Wren, who took it without hesitation and dug deep into the earth beside him. They didn't make speeches. They didn't need to. That night, they sat under the stars on folding chairs and drank lemonade from paper cups. Daisy had fallen asleep in the back seat of the truck after insisting she could stay up to watch the foundation grow. Wren leaned her head against Wesley's shoulder. We're really doing this. He kissed her temple. No turning back now. Good. She pulled a folded letter from her jacket pocket and hesitated. I wasn't sure I was going to read this to you, but I wrote it the night before the wedding, just in case I lost my nerve. He didn't speak. He just waited. She unfolded it and began to read. I loved you the first time you didn't look at me like I was made of headlines and bank accounts. I loved you the second time you let me see your fear. And I loved you the third time you handed me your heart without asking for anything in return. If we never build anything else, we've already built enough, but I hope we do. I hope we build everything. She looked up. That's all. He took the letter and folded it again, sliding it into his jacket. We will, years passed. The house stood tall on the hill, its porch worn smooth by bare feet and lazy afternoons. Vaughn legacy expanded into 3 locations, each one run by people who once thought their best days were behind them. The veteran program grew. So did the waiting list. Wren took pictures again. Not for profit, not for press, just for memory. She framed them in the hallway. One of Daisy holding a wrench taller than her leg. One of Wesley asleep in the hammock with Whiskers curled on his chest. Daisy grew tall and clever. She never did get that horse, but she got a piano instead and a scholarship. On a quiet Sunday morning, Wren stood barefoot in the kitchen, flipping pancakes while Wesley danced with her to a song playing low on the radio. The windows were open. The breeze smelled like honeysuckle and cut grass. He dipped her just for fun, and she laughed so hard she nearly dropped the spatula. They had no secrets left. No battles to fight. No storms on the horizon, just love. And the kind of life that felt like their greatest work yet.